If you had the chance to go back in time and make your life perfect, would you take it? Or would you read the fine print? I am the keeper, he who reads the tales that seep through the veil. Tonight, we will delve together into the horror of when a good thing comes too easily. Alicia stepped off the bus and onto the steps of the International People's Bank. Impressive words, but it was hardly large enough to be international, and the only people it served were the crooks who owned it. There was hardly a person in the whole West End who hadn't been scammed by it in some way or other. Not that it mattered. The West End was a transitory place filled with people hoping for better. Some found better and moved out. Others like Alicia became stuck after a single innocent, yet monumentally devastating mistake, and were threatened by the crush of 1,000 bills until they buckled and moved to even cheaper accommodations. Which was why, unfortunately, Alicia was here. She braced herself as she opened the rusted gold doors. She expected memories to rush at her. Memories of stolen kisses behind the clerk counter, of his hands, once so gentle, slipping into hers, of him whispering sweet nothings into her hair. But all she saw was the lazy crowd of people in line to see an even lazier crowd of bank tellers. She wiped a tear from her eye as she slipped into the bathroom, right next to the counter she used to work at, right before she had been fired. Right before everything had gone wrong, and Alicia shook her head. She couldn't waste her time moping about her failed marriage, or the line of bruises that still crawled halfway up her arms. She had a job to do. Looking around to see if anyone else was in the cramped restroom, Alicia ducked into the third stall. Right above the toilet was a duct. One that Alicia knew led directly to the second biggest vault. Typically, it held just under $1 million, which would be more than enough money to pay off the debt from her divorce lawyer and move to another city. Gingerly, she unscrewed the vent from the ceiling and placed it on top of the toilet paper cover. Next, she carefully stepped onto the lid of the toilet cover and even more carefully lifted herself into the duct system. Once up, she breathed a heavy sigh of relief and began scooting her way down the vent. But before she could get far, she was engulfed. Alicia awoke in darkness, or at least, she thought she had woken. She couldn't quite remember anything before this moment, though she did feel a slight ache in her chest. She frowned, but before she could think on it, a light glimmered in the corner of her eye, distracting her thoughts. Alicia turned and walked towards it. As she drew closer, she realized it was a book. Or rather, it was the words on the page of a book. The book itself seemed rather ordinary except for its dark pages. It was set upon a wooden stand which was barely illuminated by the light. A light which emanated from those dark sheets of paper. These words swirled and danced and sparkled like magic with each spiral. Alicia watched with amazement as it finally settled into a coherent message. "Suffering one, you've been through many heartbreaks," it wrote. "Your dreams have been snatched from your fingers before you could catch them in your mind. Would you like to see them?" Alicia nodded hungrily, her eyes widening as the color bloomed onto the page. The colors grew until a picture of a house and a happy family covered both pages. Alicia gazed into the picture and gasped. The husband was her husband, or rather, her ex-husband, and the wife was herself, smiling and content, happier than she had ever been in her entire life. And the children. One had her eyes, the other her hair, her nose, her mouth, and his smile. Undoubtedly, they were their children, beautiful and happy and full of life. The perfect children for what could have been a perfect life. A tear slipped down Alicia's cheek and onto the page. As it touched the paper, the picture began to move. The children began to laugh and play, and her husband wrapped his arms around her so gently. She smiled like she was the most beautiful woman on earth again. Smiled like she never had before. Alicia smiled herself, more tears streaming down her face. Sniffling, she stretched her hand out to touch the page, but it faded to black.
No, bring it back,
she said, her voice warbled from the tears. Words appeared again on the black pages. What will you trade for such a life?
Anything,
Alicia said, wiping her tears furiously.
I trade anything for that.
Then so it will be, wrote the book. And suddenly, Alicia was falling. And your new life shall be one of many misfortunes.
Mama, look!
Alice said, showing Alicia the flower in her hand. Alicia's heart nearly burst with love and pride at the tiny, beautiful child in front of her.
That's beautiful, Alice. Where did you find it? Can you show me?
Alicia asked, taking the toddler's tiny hand. They prattled along as they walked until Alicia's phone rang.
Hello? What? No, I'll be right there. Alice, we need to go. Daddy's got a big boo-boo at work, and he wants us to come kiss it better.
Alicia said, trying to shove down the panic clawing at her chest. He needs a blood transplant, a large one, and the tendons of his hands will never respond again. The doctor told Alicia. The breath hitched in her throat.
No, he's a carpenter. He can't work if he can't use both hands. Isn't there anything we can do?
Alicia asked, her heart freezing and bolting in equal turns. The doctor rubbed his neck and hissed in a breath. Well, it's a bit drastic, but there is a new method that has been developed where we take the tendons of a donor to supplant the damaged tendons. But the donor list is 10 weeks out, and we only have an hour for the operation to be viable, he said sheepishly, guilt running across his face as he saw her own expression rise and fall.
Could I be a donor?
Alicia asked, barely above a whisper. The doctor stopped, a startled expression on his face, before he began to nod. Yes, but it will leave your right hand immobile, he said, watching her carefully. Alicia took a deep breath.
That's fine. What do I need to do?
She asked. Years later, they were at the beach. Trenton, her husband, was building a sandcastle throne with his fully healed hands. Once finished, he picked up Alice and placed her on it. There, now you're a sand princess, he said, grinning wide as she giggled. Alicia smiled too.
And little John will be the sand prince,
Alice said, bouncing over to the baby Alicia held in her arms. Alicia gave him a big kiss before running off to play in the waves. Trenton moved to sit next to Alicia, taking John from her to plant his own kiss on the cooing baby boy, before planting another on Alicia's forehead. Did I ever tell you how beautiful you look at the beach? Trenton asked, staring deeply into Alicia's eyes. Alicia laughed and used her good hand to playfully push him away.
Knock it off, you flirt,
she joked, leaning against his shoulder. No, I'm serious. Your eyes match the waves, and the sun catches your hair just right. It's like staring at an angel. Mesmerizing, really, he said, running his fingers through her hair as John babbled. Alicia opened her mouth to respond, but was cut off by a scream. The patient has fell off a nearby rock and split her crown. Due to the distance, she has lost plenty of blood. Alicia's own blood roared in her ears as she waited for the doctors to come back. It's all right, darling. It's going to be all right, Trenton whispered in her ear, gently rubbing her shoulder. Alicia shuddered in her breath.
But what if it's not?
She whispered hoarsely. She looked up at Trenton's warm, comforting eyes, but the image of Alice's body sprawled out on the rocky shore flashed before her eyes, and she burst into tears. Shh, darling. It's all right. She'll be fine. I'm sure they deal with this all the time. They'll know what to do, he whispered, but Alicia could hear the worry in his voice, and it only made her sob harder. Excuse me, Mrs. Carter? Alicia looked up to see an uncomfortable-looking doctor with a brown clipboard. She wiped the tears from her cheeks and nodded her head. Yes, well, sorry to disturb you, but it looks like your daughter will be alright. That is, she just needs a blood transfusion, the doctor said, nervously shuffling his papers. Relief swelled in her chest, and she nearly burst into tears again. Except, well, she has a rare blood type, and we don't have any on hand, the doctor continued, and this time, Alicia did weep. Then fly some in, Trenton roared, or let us donate. She's our child, surely we have the same blood type, he continued, looking from Alicia to the doctor and back again, daring the doctor to tell him otherwise. You do, or at least your wife does, the doctor stammered, showing his clipboard. Alicia tried, looking at it through her teary eyes, but it all blurred and danced in front of her.
I'll do it, gladly,
Alicia said through gasps, thrusting her arm out.
Careful, John, that's a high ledge.
Alicia called from the porch. She carefully shifted on her favorite chair. It had been years, but she could swear that the doctors had somehow broken her foot after that transfusion. And needing to get blood from her foot in the first place was strange. Very strange, but at least Alice was all right.
Mom, check this out. I got straight A's on all my tests,
Alice said, slinging her backpack on the kitchen floor and rushing over to Alicia. She eagerly shoved the various test papers in Alicia's face, and Alicia laughed as she grabbed them with her good hand.
Really? John, we're getting ice cream,
Alicia asked, spreading the test out on her lap. Sure enough, they were all marked with A's, or A+, or even one A++.
Really? John, we're getting ice cream,
Alice shouted to her brother. Alicia smiled as she looked up, but the smile froze on her face. Little John, who had been climbing along the house's patio, was turning to see what his sister was saying, and as he did, Alicia watched in horror as he lost his grip and fell in the hard cement below. She hobbled on her aching foot towards him, Alice racing ahead of her.
Mom, he's bleeding.
He will need a transfusion, and you are the only one whose blood matches,
the doctor was saying. Alicia nodded numbly, flashbacks of that one fateful vacation filling her head.
Of course, take as much as you need,
Alicia muttered, her breath hitching in her throat as the familiar panic began to claw at her.
I don't think we should go to that hospital anymore,
Alicia said, carefully balancing Sarah on her hip. Her one good arm was wrapped tightly around her. Why not? Trenton laughed, setting down the groceries they had bought together. Alicia smiled grimly and set little Sarah on the floor, where she immediately began crawling towards the fridge magnets.
Well, ever since John's blood transfusion, my arm hasn't felt right. It's numb clear up to my shoulder, and there's stabbing pains at the joint. The same with my foot as well. I feel like I'll need crutches soon with how much it hurts,
Alicia said, massaging her shoulder and settling into a chair. That doesn't seem right. I'll look into it and find you a specialist, Trenton said, moving to put the groceries away. Alicia smiled, continuing to rub her aching limbs. But then a strange, warbling noise filled her ears.
Do you hear that?
Alicia asked, looking around. Hear what? Trenton asked, spinning around. The warbling grew louder, echoing off the walls.
What's that?
That, can you not hear it?
Alicia asked, struggling to her feet and looking all around her. There was no way it was an airplane, or a new appliance, or anything mechanical. It almost sounded like. The noises grew even louder as they bounced up and down and around the room.
What's that?
Voices. It almost sounded like a voice. Very drawn out and echoing almost beyond recognition, but definitely a voice. Alicia stumbled to a wall, using it as a crutch as she tried to figure out where the noise was coming from. Darling, where are you going? Trenton called behind her, but Alicia didn't pay any attention.
Is that
Alicia could hear them much clearer now. She closed her eyes, trying to force her mind to make sense of it all.
It's a body.
It's a body! What on earth is going on?
Samantha shrieked, backing up in terror as her friend Abby pulled the body out of the vent.
Samantha, go call the police. She's still alive.
Abby commanded, cradling the half-mangled body in her arms as she looked wildly at Samantha. Thoughts of crazy serial killers and axe-murderers filled her mind as she gazed at the poor woman she held. Her right arm was gone, as well as her left leg, just below the knee. Abby felt her stomach seize and forced herself not to throw up.
Hurry, Samantha. She's bleeding a lot.
Abby yelled, spurring Samantha into action. She looked back down at the poor woman, who had begun to move her head.
Don't worry, we're gonna get you some help.
She told her, praying that an ambulance would arrive in time. Alicia groaned and forced her eyes open. What she saw was all too familiar. Sterile white walls and doctors in lab coats moving around a heart monitor.
Not again.
Alicia whispered before closing her eyes and rubbing her face with her good hand. She took a deep breath before opening them again.
You're awake. That's very good. Ma'am, can you tell me how you feel?
A voice asked, drawing Alicia's eyes to yet another doctor. A rather handsome one. Alicia grimaced at herself in disgust. What on earth was she thinking that for, when she was already married to the perfect man?
Where's my husband? What happened to me?
Alicia rasped, looking around for Trenton. It was then that she noticed that the heart monitor was connected to her.
My arm.
She asked, her voice still hoarse. She went to sit up, careful not to agitate her right arm, but it felt oddly free. She looked down and saw that it wasn't there.
Your ex-husband is behind bars. There's no need to worry. And after what he did to you, he'll be there for a long time,
the doctor said, but Alicia barely registered what he was saying as she gaped down at her bandaged shoulder, with nothing below it.
My arm.
She whispered, still staring at the stump. The handsome doctor grimaced before he sat down in the chair next to her.
Yes, what he did was horrible. If you need someone to talk to, we do have a resident therapist,
he said before correcting himself.
That is, until you can locate one yourself, if I'm not mistaken. You have quite the stash of money piling up from donations.
What?
Alicia asked, the words still swirling in her head. She thought back, trying to make sense of what she was saying, trying to remember. She hadn't divorced Trenton. She loved him, didn't she? But now the memories of their family were blurring as another set of memories forced their way back into her mind. Memories of him growing angry and violent, and her finally escaping into the West End. And the bank, the duct, the magical book with the glowing ink. Each moment seared into her mind, so clear she couldn't even begin to convince herself that they weren't real. Her arm and leg weren't taken by her ex-husband.
The one thing we couldn't quite explain is the acid he was using to dissolve you. Sorry, that's rather graphic,
the doctor was saying, his kind eyes glancing at Alicia as he explained.
Well, whatever he used, it almost looked like stomach acid. And the way your skin is worn away, it almost looks like...
I was being eaten alive?
Audio. Alicia whispered, her eyes wide.
Yes, well, obviously not, as there isn't any creature that could swallow a grown woman whole near here, much less spit her back up without anyone noticing. And sorry, this probably isn't the right time to speak about this. Would you like to lie back down? Or can I call for Dr. Forrest? She's the therapist I was talking about. She's a very sweet old lady, and much better at bedside manner,
he joked, chuckling slightly before rambling on.
Of course, I could also go on about the various treatment plans we can offer you, all of which are paid for by your donors.
But Alicia's mind was already swirling so fast she hardly registered his voice. Thoughts of her family, her husband, her life, all flashing before her eyes. All fabricated. She knew that now. All lost forever, or rather, never having existed in the first place. Tears streamed down Alicia's face as she settled back into the hospital bed, her eyes closed as the sweet memories swirled in her mind. Swirled and danced like the sparkling words on a dark page.